From survival to service, a journey that refused to stay silent, the story of Peter Thuch Mapior. Most people believe leadership begins with confidence, with certainty, with a clear plan, but some journeys begin in the opposite place. They begin in uncertainty, in displacement, in moments where survival comes before dreams. This is one of those journeys. This is not a story about success measured by money, titles, or applause. It is a story about becoming, about what happens when a person refuses to let pain harden into bitterness and instead allows it to mature into purpose. This is the story of Peter Mapior. Peter's life did not begin with guarantees. It began with instability, conflict, and questions no child should have to answer so early. What does safety feel like? What does home mean when it keeps moving? And who do you become when the world does not slow down for your fear? These questions were not philosophical, they were lived. In environments shaped by uncertainty, Peter learned something most people never do, that life can change overnight and no one asks for permission. But hardship alone does not create leaders. Hardship only creates pressure. And what matters is what you do with it. Some people turn pressure into anger, some turn it into silence, others turn it inward and disappear. Peter chose a different path. He watched, he listened, he learned. Even early on, he noticed something quietly devastating. Those who suffer the most are often those who are least seen. And the world does not lack strength, it lacks understanding. That realization stayed with him. Migration added another chapter and another test. Leaving one world for another is not just about geography, it is about identity. When Peter arrived in Australia, he arrived with hope but not ease, with ambition but not shortcuts. There were new systems to learn, new cultural codes to decode, new expectations that were never written down but always enforced. Like many migrants, he carried an invisible weight, the constant pressure to prove that he belonged, not just legally, but socially, emotionally, humanly. Yet instead of trying to erase where he came from, Peter chose to integrate it. He began observing how society functioned not from the top but from the margins. He noticed how easily people were categorized, how quickly stories were reduced to labels, how often support systems focused on efficiency rather than humanity, and slowly a pattern became clear. People were being managed, not understood, supported but not empowered, included but not truly seen. That gap disturbed him because he knew what it felt like to be on the other side of it. Before leadership came visibility, before visibility came responsibility, there was frontline work. Peter did not build his understanding from reports or boardrooms. He built it from real people, real lives, real struggles. He worked directly with individuals living with disability, mental health challenges, trauma, and cultural isolation. This is where ideals are tested. This is where you learn the difference between helping someone and helping yourself feel helpful. He saw individuals dismissed as difficult when they were simply unheard. He saw families labeled non-compliant when they were overwhelmed and exhausted. He saw systems designed to protect organizations rather than uplift people, and somewhere in that space, a belief hardened into conviction. Care should never feel like control. Support should never erase identity, and help should never come at the cost of dignity. This belief would become the backbone of everything he built. Leadership is often misunderstood. It is not charisma, it is not authority, it is not having answers to every question. Leadership is staying human. When systems reward detachment, Peter learned that true leadership begins where convenience ends. He learned that listening is not passive, it is active courage, that empathy is not weakness, it is intelligence, and that the most powerful change does not come from domination, but from trust. Eventually, experience demanded action. The question became impossible to ignore. What if care was built with people, not around them? What if culture was not treated as an obstacle, but as context? What if choice was not a privilege, but a right? That question gave birth to My Way Disability and Aged Care. The name was intentional. My Way was not about ego, it was about agency. It said, your life matters, your voice matters, your story matters. It was a refusal to reduce human beings to files, numbers, or funding categories. As the organization grew, so did the weight of responsibility, growth tests, integrity. It is easy to stay principled when resources are limited. It is harder when complexity increases. But Peter carried one rule with him into every decision: never forget the ground you walked on. He stayed close to the people the system was built for, close to staff, close to families, close to lived experience, because systems only work when people feel respected inside them. In a sector driven by compliance, he insisted on compassion. In a world obsessed with speed, he insisted on understanding. This was not always convenient, it was not always popular, but it was always human. Peter's leadership style is not loud, it does not dominate rooms, it does not seek validation, it listens before it speaks, it asks before it assumes, it serves before it leads. And that is precisely why it resonates, because people can sense when leadership is rooted in authenticity. They can feel when decisions are informed by lived experience, not distance. But this story is bigger than one organization. It is about what happens when someone refuses to let trauma decide their ceiling. It is about how pain can either isolate you or connect you more deeply to others. It is about leadership that does not demand loyalty but earns trust. Peter's journey reminds us that the most impactful leaders are not those who arrive untouched, but those who have been shaped, tested, and softened by experience. It reminds us that empathy is not learned from textbooks, it is earned through living. If you are watching this and questioning your own path, feeling delayed, displaced, or unseen, this story carries a quiet message for you. Your past does not disqualify you, it prepares you. Your struggle is not wasted, it is instruction. And your story, when lived with intention, can become someone else's safety. Leadership is not about standing above others, it is about walking with them. And sometimes the most powerful journeys are the ones that begin in silence and end in service. This is the story of Peter Mapior, not a story of arrival, but a story of purpose, and a reminder that humanity, when protected, has the power to transform systems, communities, and lives.